Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another product review, or a range report on a product, because normally my range reports are on firearms, but this is actually going to be on a suppressed AR-15 upper receiver, and an integrally suppressed AR-15 upper receiver to be specific, and we will be taking a look at the Gemtech Integra 5.56. So as the name implies, this is in 5.56, and the suppressor is built into the upper receiver. In fact, it is pin and welded at the gas block. Therefore, the tube of the suppressor, which is the registered part, is part of the barrel, and this has an overall barrel length of 16.1 inches. Therefore, this is a single tack stamp firearm, so you don't need to register your lower receiver and make it an SBR to get it to this size, because once again that tube is part of the barrel. So that is a huge advantage to this design. And so this is an integrally suppressed upper receiver that you can buy as a standalone product. So I can't wait to see how this thing performs at the range. Now, not everything on this upper is made by Gemtech, and we're going to go through what comes in this complete upper, which also has a charging handle and a bolt carrier group included. But before we get this to the range and see how it sounds and of course how it performs, I always want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool upper receiver. He's a local fan and subscriber, and because this is an NFA item, he has gone to great lengths to be here so I can film this report. His name is Jack, and he's in fact the second person named Jack that lends guns to the channel, so I want to thank him as Jack number 2. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not do this without their support. And if you guys want to join my Patreon, you can do it for as little as $1 a month, and there's a link in the description below, and you can see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for these range reports, because he provides the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And most likely, if you're watching the Texas Gun Vault, you're a gun collector, because that's what we do here at this channel. We show off amazing guns that everyone wants as parts of their collections. And you probably have awesome pistols like 1911s, Beretta 92s, CZ75s, or Browning High Powers, just to name a few. And you might be in the market for a set of customized wood grips to make your firearms unique and one of a kind. Well, I have the perfect grip company for you. Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company, making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Not only does Mark make grips for pistols, he also makes wood panel grips for modern sporting rifles. Yes, that is something unique and very different. He can apply custom logos, custom engravings, finish these grips in a wide variety of colors, and even apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to make these grips one of a kind. So I'm going to put a link in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. Please go over to his website, see everything he has to offer, and when you place that order for your first set of custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so let's talk about the upper receiver we have on the workbench today, the Gemtech Integra 5.56 integrally suppressed AR-15 upper, obviously in 5.56 by 45 millimeter. I have put it on my Texas Gun Vault logoed NS-15 from North Star Arms. The suppressor is made of lightweight titanium. It's also extremely durable. This upper comes with a Seekins Precision handguard, which is very wide, which can go over the suppressor. We do have a Voltor charging handle, which also comes with the package, and you have a complete bolt carrier group inside. So you get everything in the box you need to simply install it on your favorite lower receiver, go to the range, and have fun. So now let's talk about a few things about this that I like and don't like, and I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I really like about this suppressor I've already mentioned. It's made of titanium. I know that there's a lot of suppressor companies out there today that prefer to use stainless steel, and that's a great material too, but the big disadvantage of stainless steel is its weight. The one thing I was really hoping when I got my hands on this is that this was going to be a balanced upper, that when you shoulder it, you're not being weighed down at the end of the barrel. And their choice to use titanium, I think, is a great choice. The rifle feels balanced with this upper, and I really feel like it's going to be durable in the long run. Titanium is a very durable and strong metal for suppressors. I think it's going to resist corrosion and erosion over time. The next great thing about this upper I already mentioned. This is only a one tax stamp firearm. So a lot of people, if you want to add a suppressor to an AR-15 and get it into a short package, you have to SBR your lower receiver, have a 10.5-inch barrel, and then add your suppressor. But because the suppressor is pin and welded to this barrel, it's all one unit. Therefore, the barrel is technically 16.1 inches long. The lower receiver does not have to be an SBR, and you can have a suppressed upper at pretty much the same length as though you had an SBR with a detachable suppressor. So that is a huge advantage to this design. And the last thing I love about this design is that it is user serviceable. You can actually take the baffles out of this. You can't remove the tube. The tube is actually the serialized part, but you can remove the baffles to inspect them and to clean them. And it's really easy. And I think that's really important to an integrally suppressed gun like this. So I want to adjust the camera real fast. I want to show you how easy this end cap is to get off. And then we'll talk about a couple things about this that I don't like, and then we'll take it to the range. So to show you how easy this is to take apart and clean, all you have to do is take off the end cap, and you just need a 3/8 wrench. So I've put this upper into a barrel vise, and you'll notice the end cap is square, and that 3/8 wrench goes right in it, and you can simply unscrew the baffle stack. And then once it comes out far enough, you can simply use your fingers, pull out the baffle stack, and it is a monocore. And so you can put this into a sonic cleaner or clean it with a brush. You can also inspect the baffles to ensure that there is no baffle strikes or other problems internally with the suppressor. As I mentioned, the tube itself is part of the barrel, so you cannot remove that, and that's why it only requires one tax stamp. So putting it in is exactly the opposite of taking it apart. You can finger tighten it, and then put your wrench in the end cap and tighten it on down. It is really easy to do. And there you go. And that, I think, is a huge advantage to this design. All right, so let me readjust the camera, and let's talk about a couple things about this upper receiver that I don't like. And as I mentioned, there's a couple things about this upper receiver that I'm not really a big fan of. The first thing is going to be the pistol length gas system. If you have ever built an AR-15 or ever had to tune the gas system in an AR-15, you understand the importance of the length of that tube, the dwell time, and the size of the gas port. Everything has to be aligned perfectly for it to run well. And that's typically why many ARs run better with longer gas systems. They're more forgiving. The shorter the gas system, the more precise it has to be. And not a lot of guns use a pistol length gas system, which is really short. I'm curious if this is going to be over-gassed, but I think the reason they had to do this is because this tube for the suppressor is so long. Even though the baffle stack is only about this long, I think about 6 inches, the tube looks like it's about 12 inches. And so it comes all the way up to this gas tube, and it is welded on. on. So I don't know what the performance of this gun is going to be like with such a short gas system. The other thing that I don't like is the distance between the tube of the suppressor and the handguard. And let me show you this up close. And you can see it is just underneath the handguard. And why is that a problem, you're asking? Well, I am curious about heat transfer. Even though this is a free float barrel, so it's not touching the handguard, it is extremely close. And if you've handled suppressors after they've been used, you know how hot they can be, especially rifle suppressors. These things can get really, really hot. So even if you have mounted accessories on this, I'm actually kind of worried. Would it damage a light? What if you use some type of plastic rail versus an aluminum rail? Is it going to melt? And is it going to be safe to hold after you fire a few hundred rounds through it? Well, we're going to have to test this out at the range. I kind of feel like they should have made this suppressor tube a little thinner to give a little bit more distance to reduce that heat transfer. But it may work great. But let's take this thing to the range. Let's see what it sounds like, how it performs. I'm kind of excited. This is going to be my first integrally suppressed AR-15 I've ever shot. So as always, when it comes to a rifle, I'm going to shoot this at 10 yards first. I just want to make sure it functions. I want to make sure I have no issues and see if I discover anything else about this that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you before taking it out to a little bit longer distance. So let's go to the range. And so after shooting this, there's a couple things about this that I have noticed. Let's talk about something positive first. This really is a lightweight and very well balanced upper receiver. So it is very easy to hold, shoot, and keep on target. The first thing I noticed that I don't like is it is very gassy. Not only do we have that short gas system, I think it is a little bit over gas, but you also have the added back pressure of the suppressor. You really feel it and smell it as you're shooting it. And it can be a little bit uncomfortable. If you're used to shooting AR-15s unsuppressed, when you have all this burnt powder and the smell in your face, it kind of can burn your eyes. So you just have to be ready for that. Now, I also included a laser thermometer reading of the handguard, and I'm going to do this after every portion of the shooting in this range report. And essentially, I'm going to test it about halfway up the handguard where I think most people are going to touch the handguard when they're shooting. Now, if you're one of those people that likes the C-clamp, this might not be the upper for you, because I can tell you the further out you go, the hotter it is going to get. But I feel if I measure about right here in the center, it's going to give us a good baseline for its performance and the heat transfer. All right, so now let's go out about another 5 yards, put another magazine through this, see how hot this handguard gets, and to make sure that this gun continues to perform as well and is as accurate. And this is continuing to run well. I really feel like this is a great setup for a self-defense carbine, especially if you don't want to deal with those two tack stamps. You want something compact that is suppressed and you don't have to worry about it. It really is a very interesting design. The handguard is now starting to get a little bit uncomfortable to hold, and this has only been after 2 magazines, so that heat dissipation is not there. This handguard is pretty much absorbing all of the heat from this suppressor. The last thing I want to talk about now that I've put a couple magazines through it is the tone. Now, I don't have a microphone that will not auto adjust to the volume, but I can tell you I am a little bit disappointed with the volume and the pitch. It seems a little bit louder than many of my other suppressed ARs that I personally own and have shot, and the pitch is a little bit higher. When it comes to suppressors, I prefer more of a low pitch, more of a thud. This is more of a sharp chirp, if that makes any sense, and if you have ever shot suppressors yourself. And typically a higher pitch is going to sound louder to your ears even if it reads less on a decibel meter. I tell people when it comes to suppressors, what matters more is the tone than the actual decibel reduction, because that tone is what's going to give you the right sound and the right feel for the suppressor. If it's a lower pitch, it's a lot more comfortable, especially if it's going to be hearing safe. I would rather have a lower pitch than a higher pitch. All right, so now let's go out another 5 yards. I want to continue to shoot this, and I'm kind of curious now, how hot is this handguard going to get? And as you see, I'm not really putting that many rounds down range, and I'm not really shooting them that fast. So the fact it's heating up is kind of concerning me. So let's go back to the range, put another magazine through it, and see what happens. And unfortunately, the heat transfer from this suppressor to this handguard is starting to get kind of bad. I'm going to have to start holding it here at the magwell versus using the handguard. And that is really sad and kind of disappointing because I really haven't shot it all that much. And between each one of these takes, I let the gun cool off for a couple of minutes and we're still getting this excessive heat. Now, when it comes to the accuracy of this gun, the barrel, or actually the part with the lands and grooves, is only about 10.5 inches long. Now, you can get exceptional accuracy with a very short barrel. As compared to other AR-15s that I normally shoot and review, especially at this 25-yard range as a defensive carbine, I'm used to getting a little bit better accuracy. It's okay, it's practical or good range accuracy, it's just not the tack driver that I'm used to from other AR-15s. That could be because of the suppressor. That will change the point of impact many times. All right, so now let's go back to the range, and I do want to see what the best group I can get with this rifle is, and we're going to set the target out at 25 yards, and I'm going to shoot this from the bench. I'm expecting a really tight group. So let's go back to the range and see how I do. And I know some people are going to criticize me and go, you only tested that at 25 yards? Well, I look at this as a defensive carbine. Do you have an ability to shoot further than 25 yards inside your house? Probably not. So the accuracy at this distance is all I really want to measure. But I also want to say that I'm testing the product itself out to hear its tone, to see how it functions. I'm not worried too much about accuracy in this review. But it was pretty good accuracy at this distance. Nothing to write home about, but it is a pretty good group. Now let's talk about the heat of the handguard. Now we are starting to get above the boiling point of water. I really feel that if I have my hand out here in more of a normal place to support the rifle, you're going to burn your hand. I have to keep my hand way back here or on the mag well. I think this is kind of getting a little bit dangerous, and if I had any accessories mounted out here, I'd be kind of worried they might get damaged by the heat. All right, so there's one more test I want to do, the mag dump test. And yeah, this is of course more for fun than anything else. But after putting 30 rounds through this as fast as I can, I'm curious how hot this handguard is going to get. I feel it might be a little bit dangerous. But let's go back to the range. Let's put 30 more rounds through this as fast as I can and see what the heat measures on the handguard. And from a performance standpoint, this upper receiver is performing great. I am really impressed with how lightweight and how balanced it is. It is very easy to keep on target. You don't even realize there's a suppressor attached to it. So they really did a good job in making this upper receiver not feel any more cumbersome than a standard AR-15 upper. But now let's talk about the heat. Yeah, we're getting into the point that if I would touch the handguard pretty much anywhere beyond the gas block, which is right here, it is going to burn my hands severely. And I didn't show it on that footage, but when I put the heat thermometer out here towards the end, it was almost at 400 degrees. It's getting kind of dangerous. So I think this is the last bit that I'm going to shoot through this upper in this range trip. And I think the heat is going to be the biggest downside to this design. I kind of think they need to rethink its design to give you a little bit more gap between the suppressor and the handguard, or do something different to make sure that heat is dissipated. I know there's only so much you can do, but you also want to make sure that if you're done shooting and maybe you have this on a sling, it's not going to burn your back, burn your legs, or burn your hands. I think that is a very important thing to put into the design to make sure this upper receiver is safe. So what are my final thoughts on the Gemtech Integra 556 integrally suppressed AR-15 upper receiver? Well, the pros of this upper is that it does work well. I had absolutely no issues, and from a paperwork standpoint, you only have to have one tax stamp. I also said it is user serviceable. That is a huge upside for me, as someone that likes to be OCD and clean their firearms after every range use. The cons of this gun are the tone and the heat. And I really shouldn't say the gun, I should say more the upper receiver, but of course you can put this on any lower receiver that can take an AR-15 style upper. But the heat, I think, is the biggest downside to this design. Honestly, with just a short range trip, it becomes impossible to hold in a normal way. And I know a lot of you like that C-clamp hold. You're not going to be able to do that with this upper. That's the biggest downside. So on my star system, how would I rate the Integra 556 from Gemtech? Well, I think I would rate it higher if it wasn't for the heat. But as it sits, I'm only going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. Yes, it works. It does what it's supposed to do. I had no issues, but it's not as fun to shoot because of the heat. And that was really a short range trip with only 100 rounds, and for most of them being shot with a little bit of gap between, not mag dump after mag dump. It still got dangerously hot. That's just the big downside to this, and having a normal AR-15 with a detachable suppressor would be a lot better because it would keep the heat further away from your hand. But everything is a pro and con when it comes to a design choice. But what do you guys think? Does an upper receiver like this interest you? Do you like the fact it only takes one tax stamp to have a rifle like this? And do you like the idea of having the suppressor underneath the handguard? And what do you think about the heat transfer? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.